Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast. I'm really glad that you've joined me today. I think that this is going to be a shorter episode because I've been working on my whips and I haven't cast anything new on. And I'm really trying to get the things done, like the big projects that I've been working on. So let's just start talking about it. I've got two finished objects. One of them is sewing and one of them is knitting, and I've got two works in progress to show you. So yeah. My first finished object is a pair of socks, and they are the Rising Dawn socks from the Stephen West 2023 year of socks. I think it's the 7th pattern from the series that I made. They're made in Woolly Mammoth Fiber Co. Natural Sock, and the colorway is called, I think, Christmas Larder, but I don't think that she does repeatable colorways. So, and this was I got this sort of in the autumn of last year, like a year and a bit ago, I think. So yeah, I do like the color. I think that it goes really well with this pattern. The pattern is pretty much just a linen stitch texture, and these took quite a while to knit up. I did quite a deep rib for me and then quite a short leg. I really enjoy wearing socks with a bit of a shorter leg, so that's why I chose to do that for this pair. And then I continued the linen stitch in the heel because it's the same stitch pattern pretty much as a slip stitch reinforced heel flap. So I thought that it would look quite nice if I just continued it in the heel. Stephen West does garter heel flaps, and I don't love those because I find that they're too stretchy and they're not reinforced, so mine wore quite thin very fast. And then other than that, I think I followed the pattern. I just did a regular wedge toe, and I used a slip knot cast on, which if you've watched any of my videos, you probably heard me talk about. I love that cast on. It's really great because you don't need to measure out your tail of yarn because it only uses the working yarn, and I find that it's really stretchy but it doesn't flare. So I'll pull them off the blockers. Yeah. So I've been working on these for a couple of months now, and in the process it's turned 2024, and I was working on the 2023 year of socks, planning to knit all of them, but now I'm not sure that I'll continue doing that. I kind of don't want to knit the rest of the socks in the pattern collection, and I do want to just sort of do my own thing. So those are my current thoughts. I'm sure that in my next video I'll have an update for you about what I end up doing, because I do like to have a pair of socks always cast on to work on. And now I can wear these. I like the colorway. I do think that this yellow is it looks a little bit like pea, but if you just put that out of your mind, I think that they're very pretty, and I don't think I would make another pair of socks in linen stitch unless these turn out to be my favorite socks of all time when I start wearing them, just because it's sort of a time intensive stitch pattern. But yeah, I'm glad to have them done. I think that this was a nice pattern, and I love this yarn as well. So that's my first finished objects, a pair of socks. In my last video, I put my sewing at the end, and I don't know what I should do for that. So I think I'll keep that at the end in this video as well. Just in case you're absolutely not interested in it, then you don't have to be bored by me talking about it or skip through. So yeah, I haven't cast on any new projects, as I said earlier, mostly because I had cast on some really big new projects quite recently, and I'm pretty determined to finish them. I am going back home to Scotland in about 2 weeks to get surgery. So I'll be there for about 2 months, 7 weeks. And I just want to finish my long-term projects before I go, especially ones that are more winter appropriate. So that is what I have been really like laser focused on. And this is a project that I introduced in my last podcast, and it's my green ribbon scarf. It's very long. It's exactly what I want it to be. So I have just started my third and last ball of yarn for the project. You can see I ended up fading it in. So I did just 2 row stripes because there was quite a stark color difference between the first and second skeins. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I don't have the best lighting, but this was when I had time to record. Anyway, so there isn't such a harsh difference between these 2 skeins because I sort of faded it in. I measured until there was 5 grams left of the previous skein, and then I started incorporating the last one. All of these skeins were from the same dye lot, so there really shouldn't be such a big difference, I don't think. But I've also found quite a significant difference in how much dye comes off on my hands between the 3 skeins. I bought these from Hedgehog Fibers in 2020 from my local yarn shop at the time, which was Argyle Yarn Shop in Brooklyn, New York. It's Hedgehog Fibers Sporty Single, and it's a I don't know if that's useful. It's a single ply superwash merino base. The color is, I think, called Hunter, and I love this color. I really don't think that this is very good lighting for you to see what the color looks like, but I think hopefully it's okay. And yeah, this has been in my stash. I originally bought these skeins along with 3 other skeins to make a jumper, a striped jumper, but I sort of had realized between buying the yarn and casting it on that I don't want to be making single ply jumpers or garments, just because they're not as durable as I would want from something that takes that much wear and takes such a long time to make. And I just love this. This is just the perfect pattern the perfect project for this yarn, this beautiful yarn that I already had in stash. And it was expensive as well. I think that it was like $27 a skein. So I'm really glad to be using this yarn since it was expensive, and I bought 3 skeins of it. But yeah, in my last episode I talked about the inspiration. It's not written from a pattern, but I was inspired by the ghost story of the girl with the green ribbon to make a long, big green scarf that kind of looks like a ribbon at the end, which is why I have this shaping. And so if you're interested in hearing about that, maybe check out my previous episode. And I knit this in moss stitch, so 1 by 1 knit purl and then reversed on the other side. It's a little bit of a labor-intensive stitch to do, definitely much slower than it would be if it was stockinette or in garter, but I didn't want this to roll at all. And I didn't want it to look too much like a Sophie scarf, or like, I didn't really want the garter look. I wanted this sort of bumpy, mossy, it's called moss stitch, texture, and I love the texture. So I'm really happy with it, and it's definitely worth the time that it's taken, I think. It took a couple different tries to get the right rate of increases for the ribbon end, because I wanted them to be dramatic and quite long, but I also wanted the scarf to be wide. And I ended up doing 6 rows. Every 6 rows I increased on the inside of each section. So yeah, I can normally knit, if I'm really going hard, around 10 grams a day. So I think I'll be able to get this done before I go. But I'm not sure. It's not like the end of the world if I don't, but I probably won't take it with me. I'd love to be able to finish this. Yeah, I'm 2/3 done. It's very long. It's definitely gonna be long enough for me to, here, oh, very sunny. Yeah, so and I still have a 1/3 to go. I'd love it to be a double wrap. Yeah, so I'd love it to be a double wrap. And it's gorgeous. I love it. My cat loves this too. He's always wanting to sit on my lap and be wrapped up in it. They're very cute, although I get a little worried sometimes about him tearing it. So that's my first work in progress to show you. My second is the Geogradient shawl, which was the mystery knit along from Stephen West this year. And it's over just next to me. I modified mine a lot. I fully changed the first clue. The second clue I knit as is. The third clue I changed a little bit, and the fourth clue is fully different. I'm using unspun yarn, mostly Nutiden, and lace weight alpaca, and in some sections I've just used the alpaca. And I'm holding the Nutiden double, which is giving me fewer stitches per inch than the pattern calls for, so I'm using a larger needle size. So it's really big. I'm sort of running out of steam with this project. I'm pretty close to the end, but the way that big shawls are is that, I don't know, the end is so much knitting. So yeah, I'd love to get this done. I've been really working on it, but I hit a little bit of a snag, so I had to pause for a couple of days. But here, I'll show you what I've got. So here's my first clue, and then the second, and then it's hard, I don't want to knock anything off the needle. My third clue, and then this is my fourth clue. I'm not sure how far I was last time I recorded, but I am doing a series of ruffles for this. And yeah, so in between the ruffles, I'm doing probably the most Geogradient looking part of it that I've done. So a few rows of each of the color of the alpaca and then a ruffle in the white. It's quite hard to see, and the first ruffle actually didn't turn out that great, but hopefully when I block it, it will be better. I wanted something that gave a lot of weight to the border so that it would sort of pull together all of the different fabrics of the shawl, which are not particularly cohesive in drape. So I wanted a border that almost was like a little bit pendulous, so having that alpaca only section and then the ruffles I think is gonna give it some weight and some flow. It's just kind of a lot of knitting to knit ruffles. So this first one didn't come out perfect, but I'm not gonna go back. I'm forging bravely ahead. For the second section of lace weight alpaca, I did an additional row for each color. So I think that's 4 rows instead of 3. And then for the second ruffle, I did an increase every 3rd stitch. So, and I went up a needle size to a 5mm instead of a 4.5mm. So hopefully that'll give me a really good ruffle. It's looking like it will. And then I'm gonna pick up the stitches. And then I'm gonna do another section of lace weight alpaca and another 1 or 2 ruffles at the end. The rows are very long, but I think that the shawl will be really beautiful when it's done, and the colors I'm loving, and yeah, it's definitely unique. And I've learned a lot about ruffles. Yeah, I've learned a lot about ruffles while I was knitting this. I did run out of all of the white that I had brought with me. Most of my nudity is in Edinburgh, and I brought enough, I thought would be enough for the whole shawl with me, but I don't have enough of the white. I actually only had enough for one ruffle, and I thought I could just take it home when I go home and use the white there, but then I just didn't want to prolong this process. I didn't want to be bringing the shawl back and forth, so I bought a plate of unspun yarn. It's the one from Wool Dreamers. I don't remember what it's called. It's not Manchalope, is it? But it's just their sort of white unspun. It comes off the plate in double strands, which is really nice. And yeah, it feels soft. I've never used an unspun yarn that wasn't knitted in before, and it seems quite a little bit different. Like the fibers are less in line, so it's got a bit more sturdiness to it, which I am enjoying for this project. The colors of knitted in just depend so much on the specific colorway that it's sort of hard to describe it to other yarns, but this does feel pretty sturdy, but maybe that's because it's coming off the plate in 2 strands. That definitely also contributes to it. So we'll see if this lasts me through the whole thing. I just bought the one plate and I got it from the Woolly Thistle. I love that online yarn shop. I watch their podcast whenever it comes out, and I have a bit of a parasocial relationship with the people who run the podcast. And so yeah, so I got it from them. I also bought some wool wash from them, just Euclid, which I never actually used before. So it was very exciting the first time I used it. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna knit 10 rows for this ruffle. I'm doing it in garter stitch, and then I made the mistake of doing an I-cord bind off on the first one. I'm just gonna do normal bind off on this one. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I hope it goes well. I think that when I finish the shawl, I'm gonna put it away and not look at it for a couple months, but then maybe in the winter time, I will have a renewed appreciation, and I'll be grateful for myself as right now for finishing it. But now I'm kind of sick of it. So yeah, that's my Geogradient. I'm sure that you are probably sick of it too, sick of hearing about Geogradients. I can tell you about my wool washing adventure. So I used the wool wash. I needed to wash my jumpers because I go to spin class quite frequently, and I always wear a jumper there because it's cold, but then I have to put the jumper on and I'm all sweaty and it's gross. It's horrible. But I didn't want to be washing them like every week. That felt ridiculous. So like with the laundry detergent that I was using. So I got a wool wash, and I realized I never blocked this jumper that I made last year. It's the Harlo jumper, and I made it with spin cycle and a lace weight alpaca from Hobby. It's a great jumper, and it looks totally different now that it's blocked in a way that I really like. It's got loads more drape, and it's got a lot of length, and this is what I wanted it to look like the whole time. So I guess I should get up a little bit and show you. So I'm wearing overalls. So this is the jumper now, and it still does that thing where it pouches out in the front, but I think that's inevitable because I didn't do any bust shaping. But yeah, I love it. It's It's got a lot more drape, especially in the shoulder and bust area, and I like that. And the fabric feels much more relaxed. It feels like the alpaca is sort of shining through now in a way that it wasn't before. I did pin it. I pinned it for length, not for width, but it grew widthwise a little bit. But I didn't do the sleeves because I could see it. I could see that it was getting wider, and I knew that the sleeves would be way too long, so I sort of pinned the sleeves in. So the sleeves are still very springy, and they don't have the drape, but they are the right length. So all's well that ends well, I think. And I'm happy with this jumper. It's really nice, and I'm glad that I eventually got around to blocking it. The Euclid, super nice. The no rinse was very convenient. I got the grapefruit smell because it was the only one the Willy Thistle had in stock, and it smells great. And this room is such a sunspot that it dried in a day. So yeah, I only have good things to say about that. I'm really happy with the jumper now. I was happy with it before. I think I spoke about it in a video a couple months ago, but I was never like thrilled. And now I would say that I am. Although, one thing I'll say about the Harlo sweater is that they didn't recommend to cast on any stitches in the armpit under the arms, and I think that you should if you're making it. If I make it again, I will be casting on stitches under the arms because I think that just helps it fit a 3D person better. So the only change I would make would be to cast on like 5 stitches under each arm for the sake of being 3-dimensional. And otherwise, no notes. Very happy with it. My final thing to show you is a sewing project that I have finished in the past 2 weeks. In my last video, I told you about this bag that I made. The pattern is called the Bestie Bag by BF Patterns, which is Blackbird Fabrics, which is such a nice fabric store. And I had finished this bag. It's crossbody. It's really big. It fits a lot of stuff in it. It's got a tie strap, and I got this zipper with a fish on it, which is really nice. And yeah, so I wanted to make another one that would more easily fit the hardback books that I've been reading. I took this bag with me on I was going to a funeral, but it was not someone I knew particularly well, but it was sort of a family obligation, and I was glad to be there to support my family members. But it was a really long day of travel, so I had a water bottle, I had a book, I had some knitting, and I had like a phone charger and all of this stuff, and it all fit into this bag. But it wouldn't have fit if my book hadn't been like a mass market paperback, really small book. So I wanted to change. I had a lot of width, but not a lot of depth room. I had too much length, but not enough depth. Width is outwards. I kept the width the same. So I slightly redrafted the pattern, just reshaped the main pieces, and then I ended up having to change some of the other pieces too, to make a version of it that would fit a book in it better, and this is how it looks. I'm very, very new to sewing, so I'm always wanting to try out different things, and I wanted to try quilting a little, like absolute beginner quilting. So I was using quite thick fusible interfacing for the first bag because that was recommended, and I had some left over, so I decided I would sew the fusible interfacing to, I had a lining fabric, but I did it unlined, except I quilted the lining fabric and the fusible interfacing and the outside fabric together along the lines on the print of the outside fabric, which was so convenient and a really good introduction to I guess, quilting style sewing. So here, I just took out everything. You can see the inside, where you can see the grid pattern. And then on the outside, you can see, if you look closely, that I've sewn along the lines. And then for the bottom, I just did the horizontal lines. And then for the strap, I did some not very evenly spaced vertical lines. I didn't have any interior pockets because I did the unlined bag because I was doing a lining by quilting it, if that makes sense. And I chose to use this bright blue bias tape to finish the seams on the inside, which I really like. I think it's really cool. I'm not the best at doing bias tape. You can see that it's like really wrinkly, but this is literally the first time I've ever used it. So I don't think it's too bad. And it really fits the big hardback books perfectly, and a water bottle and my keys, you know, everything I need. So it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And I'm just so happy with it. I bought some zippers off of Etsy. I thought I was buying 2 zippers and they sent me 10 because apparently the listing had been for 5 packs. So I've got more. So just to compare the shapes, is this useful? It's deeper, but not as wide. Here. So that's what it looks like. And I've been using it loads, and people are so impressed when I tell them that I made it. It's really fun. I don't really enjoy sewing. I think, well, making the same pattern a second time made it so much more enjoyable. But even so, it's like the machine and the noise, and it's so sharp, and I'm always like getting myself. But, oh my god, I love the compliments afterwards. So it makes it almost worth it for me. I guess it just does make it worth it. So I have friends requesting that I make them bags now, and I'm very excited to do that. But I probably won't have time to do it again before I go home because the room turns into an absolute tip. Everything is very neatly packed away, like the sewing machine and my big box of sewing supplies. It's not that big. It's like this big with everything, fabric, tools. It's all tucked away and it covers the entire floor when it's out. So I really have to, like, when I'm sewing, and then it all has to go away. I don't really have a way of doing it like just one day of sewing. It's sort of a full week endeavor. But I'm really pleased with what I made. And I think that the bags are great because I don't have to try and fit it to a body. It's so much easier. My past sewing fails have all been clothes. And I think I was just biting off more than I could chew as a beginner. So I love this. Love these. I want to make one in corduroy for my friend, and then maybe like a nice paisley pattern that I could quilt again. My machine is a pretty fancy sewing machine. It was a really generous gift from my parents a couple years ago, and it has loads of features that I have no idea how to use. So each thing I make, I learn a little bit more about something that the sewing machine can do that I didn't know. So maybe I'll try and do some free motion quilting. That'll be my next big adventure. I also wanted to do one with piping around the edges. So I got the piping cord and the bias tape to do that. I just haven't gotten around to it. So maybe I'll do that next time. I don't know. It'll be in a couple months because I can't sew when I'm in Scotland. So yeah, that's my final finished object for this episode. I was just debating about whether to even record an episode because I haven't I don't feel like I have very much exciting stuff to show, but I think I had enough stuff in the end. And it's going to be probably quite a long time before my next episode, because my friend is coming to visit from Scotland, so I'm meeting her in New York. It's very exciting. And then she's going to be staying here for a week, and she doesn't know that I have a podcast, so I don't want to record. And then I'm going to be home and I'm getting surgery, and I don't think that I will be up to, I'll probably be up to knitting, at least after a day or two, but I don't think I'll be up to like recording and moving stuff around and all that stuff. So yeah, I rest assured that I will record and upload another podcast as soon as I am able to comfortably do so. And I am really nervous to get surgery, but I think that it will improve my quality of life, so I am doing it for that reason. It's nice that my parents are happy to have me come home so they can look after me when I'm recovering. As for what knitting I'll be doing while recovering, I want to work on my color block fisherman cable jumper, and then I think that I'll bring a skein or two of sock yarn to Edinburgh, because I don't have any sock yarn there. I finished most of it and then I brought the other things with me. So I'll bring like maybe 1 to 2 skeins of sock yarn and my fisherman's cable jumper with me. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited. I was thinking about using all of my Nutidin that's left, because I think I probably have about 600 or 700 grams total in scraps of like random colors, and it's almost all in Edinburgh. I want to make the loop sweater or something inspired by it. It's like, it's got the big graphic wiggle. Yeah, so I think that would be really cool and really fun. So I might do that. I do have quite a lot of yarn over there, so I'm trying not to bring too much, but I think 1 sweater quantity and 2 skeins of sock yarn isn't too much. So I've got quite reasonable expectations of what I can bring over, and what I'll be able reasonably to work on. I don't think I'll be able to like knit prolifically immediately after surgery. So, but probably I'll have a lot of free time. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast episode. I hope it's been relatively quick and that the lighting hasn't been too bad. I'm not actually sure when I'll be able to put this up because my computer is broken, and I have to take it into the Apple shop tomorrow. But as soon as I can, I'll upload this. I hope you're having a really good February, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!